Good evening. It's 7 o'clock here in South Orange, New Jersey. This is the Tibet Center, Buddhist Meditation and Study Center, located in New York City and northern New Jersey, which is where we are now. This is our twice weekly presentation of the Buddha Dharma, specifically a little secular ethics tonight, a little process of the dying, as from the Dalai Lama's book, Advice on Dying and Living a Better Life, and the Power of Compassion book. So we have a nice mixed potpourri tonight. All the prayers we say are on the Tibet Center website in the FAQ section. Scroll down once you're in that section to prayers. If there's anyone who has passed away recently and you wish us to pray for them, put their names in the chat box, or chat boxes. So don't wait till the end, because there is a delay at the end of about a minute and a half. So we'll start. The first prayer is prayer for the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. If you're not Buddhist, you don't have to say the prayers. Just listen and enjoy the melody. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems and of the truth of our pure, selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living there, together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. The Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas, called profound illumination, and at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, "How should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge?" And Avalokiteshvara answered, "Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Form is empty. Emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form. Form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent wisdom, knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed, Tayata Om Gate Gate Para Gate Para Sam Gate Bodhisoha. O Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the bodhisattva mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, profound, transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. And next recitation is called Generating Bodhicitta. It's Bodhisattva Vow and Refuge. We say these verses 3 times. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And now, as is our custom, say a round of Om Mani Padme Hum, the mantra of Avalokiteshvara, the mantra of His Holiness Dalai Lama, who personifies great compassion. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani. Om Mani Padme Hum. Darren, I remember the name. I saw as soon as you can't remember something, say much. Brandy Carlisle. Yeah. We had a discussion before class about different singers, and we couldn't remember her name. So now, in the secular ethics department, in other words, advice for people who are Buddhist, non-Buddhist, common sense advice, using the Buddhist way of thinking to lead our lives in a more relaxed and calm and happy manner. This is a book called Many Ways to Nirvana, published in 2004, as only as the Dalai Lama, edited by Renuka Singh. She's from India. She was the director of the Tushita Meditation Center for a while in Dharamsala, India. Student of the FPMT originally. The book is devoted to Lama Yeshe. Was Dinks founded the FPMT, or Lama Zopa did, or the two of them? I don't know. That's irrelevant right now. So just random statements by His Holiness. Today, for instance, there's also a question and answer in each chapter, as His Holiness likes to do. So these were probably taken from live lectures and then questions after the lecture. And they're very practical. On page 72, the question is, what should be the spiritual limit of ambition for a busy professional? How far are you going to go with this path? You're very busy. You have to work. Nobody works because they like to, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, you have to work. So it's a situation everybody is in. And His Holiness answers, as I mentioned earlier, while you are conducting business, you have the opportunity to practice self-discipline, contentment, tolerance, and patience. I guess you do. The workplace it's like a forge of iron. You got to really, what's that? A forge? Yeah, that's the word. But to do that, first you have to study. You need background, which is why we emphasize books and learning, etc. You have to develop the conviction from that study that some emotions are destructive while others are useful. It's not that emotion itself, anytime you should be calm all the time like it's not. No. Some emotions destructive, some productive, useful, whatever you want to say. So let's get that clear. Emotion itself is not a dirty word. Once you develop this distinction clearly, this awareness about what is useful and what is harmful, this practice can be carried over to your daily life. Spiritual practice does not mean that you just remain seated in meditation doing nothing. That is not necessarily spiritual practice. Pigeons, when their stomachs are filled with food, also meditate. They are very godlike, perfectly still. So that is nothing, no help. In one sense, meditation means to withdraw all our senses and remain in thoughtlessness. Yes, that's one part of meditation. But by itself, that is nothing and has little effect. However, there are some practices, some meditation, which need thoughtlessness as a basis. Clear the mind of all the chatter, and then from there, that's what he's talking about. Then, within the thoughtlessness, some other deeper, wiser wisdom develops. Mahamudra, Dzogchen, whatever you're talking about. That is something different. But otherwise, just mere thoughtlessness is nothing. That's the old Hashan argument. This one teacher, Hashan, argued with, I think, Santa Rakshita, somebody. The mind should be clear. Any thought is just corrupt and everything. Of course, he was defeated. So they say from the Tibetan side, I'm sure from the Hashan side, he won. I don't know. Who cares? It's a long time ago. Next question. Very nice. From page 74. Your Holiness, could you throw some light on the distinction between narrow-mindedness and broad-mindedness? What's the difference? I'm sure we all have our own ideas. And we could point to various events that symbolize broad-mindedness and narrow-mindedness. Anyway, so His Holiness says, if we think just about today, that's narrow-mindedness, according to him. And if we disregard today's experiences and think about the future, it's broad-mindedness. Jungla Rinpoche used to say, what's important in the long run? Because there is a long run. Sometimes when he wanted to go, went on retreat, and then he went to his teacher, Ling Rinpoche, the previous Ling Rinpoche. He said, well, no, I want to go back to my hometown. I want to do this and that. And then Ling Rinpoche said, okay, and then what? Our plans don't take into continuity. And then what? What are you going to do then? I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, and then what? Always have that in mind, that you're in a continuity that's always moving. At least our minds are. We may be sitting still. But, yeah, so that's it. Thinking only for oneself is narrow-mindedness. But the awareness that my future is related to the future of others, that my interests entirely depend on the interest of others, and if I take care about their interests, my interests automatically are fulfilled. We're not in a vacuum. It's a necessity to do this. That's the way things are. I think this is a more broad-minded outlook. So in taking care of your neighbor, ultimately, you will benefit. If you don't take care of your neighbor, ultimately, you will suffer like that. And he leaves it at that. When they say like that, I like that. Let's see what we have here. Okay. Somebody mentioned the soul. And the question is, does the soul, this is the big question in religion, free will question. They put it to His Holiness. Does the soul come with its complete destiny, or is there free will? In other words, we won't say soul in Tibetan Buddhism specifically, but sometimes you have to refer to something that as a result of something in the past. So, all right, we got this life, so what? Was that just predestined, or what? And the answer from His Holiness, according to Buddhism, there is free will. Even when we talk about different types of karma, about having to experience their consequences, and about those so-called definitive karmas whose results are to be experienced in this life. Certain things you do, you get immediate retribution, whatever that is. Even in such cases, it is in the sense that if you do not provide or develop any positive counterforce to react against negative karmas, you are bound to experience those results. But if you make an effort and develop positive counterforces, even the so-called definitive karma can be changed. So much depends on how you think and what kind of karma you accumulate. In fact, karma is collected by the person, the individual, and I think this happens according to free will. You did certain things that you wanted, and you got the results. So there is free will, according to His Holiness's argument. Now, you could argue with him. Write something back, and Your Holiness said this, and write him a letter. But think about it. So one of the big questions always in religious life is the question of free will. Now we do, let's see, we got time? Yeah, we have a little time. We got plenty of time. You're here all night. No. A secular ethics discussion. He's going to talk about equanimity. Now, about equanimity on page 128. Equanimity is when we say, it's one part of the four immeasurables, and all beings remain in equanimity, unperturbed by attachment and aversion, things like that. It's a balanced mind, and not friend and enemy and all this. So he's going to explain that, flesh it out a little. Because some people think that means you're being like an Easter Island statue like this. No. Now about equanimity, yes, boys and girls. What disturbs our mind is primarily afflictive emotions like hatred and attachment. Emotions, the definition of affliction is that they disturb the mind. So it's not necessarily, they're a positive emotion and a negative. Anyway, and one of the antidotes that can alleviate and reduce such emotions is the practice of equanimity. And now he makes it very, very clear. Here, we're not talking about equanimity with no presence of feeling or with indifference. We don't mean that. We mean sensitivity to experiences of the positive and the negative, and being able to distinguish between right and wrong. So equanimity doesn't mean, sitting there like mud. No. One should adopt a way of life in which one cherishes positive values and tries to shun negative ones. It's an active project. You don't just sit there like that. You're going to go down to the worst habitual level that you have. You got to be active, proactive. We are talking about equanimity in the sense of alleviating attachment and hatred. That's the main thing. You're drawn towards something that just pulls you there, like the force of gravity, or you hate someone like that, and too much. It's not positive. It's not helpful. It doesn't create inner happiness. So he says now, here's a big secular ethics announcement. I feel that equanimity can be practiced both by someone with a religious viewpoint and by someone who does not adhere to any particular religious tradition. This is good, healthy thinking. That's all. That's going to give you good results mentally. It's the same with the cultivation of positive qualities like love and compassion. They can be based on reasoning and understanding from a particular religious tradition, or can be developed without any religious basis. There's no rule, and it's fine. An individual practitioner can develop loving kindness and compassion by thinking that through such practices he or she will achieve enlightenment because Buddha taught this path, the religious person. On the other hand, a person could develop such qualities thinking that the development of love and compassion would bring mental peace, physical well-being, or harmony and peace within his or her family. Results you could see right then and there. How do you know? You try it out. You can't think, yeah, maybe. Try acting according to the plan and see what happens. That's a big thing in Buddhism. They'll tell you things like, you're going to die. What are you going to do about it? They don't just get on you. So try this. It doesn't say, you got to do this, you got to do this. It says, try and let's see what happens. Like a scientific experiment. Losing my breath. Oh, this kind of reasoning is not based on any religious tradition. So, in developing equanimity, one needs to understand that negative emotions like hatred and attachment are improper and not healthy because they are biased and partial. Attracted to this one, not everyone else. Hate that one. Come on. It's biased, partial. And most of the time, when the mind is in that mode, it's not making a good decision. It's not making fair judgment at all. Most of it is your projection. Based on what? Unless you're a Buddha, it's based on an ignorant mind. When one's mind is partial, one will not be able to see reality and will not be objective. That's it. Cold, cold truth. You're not objective. You're not seeing reality. Never mind the emptiness reality. With this kind of understanding, one can strengthen equanimity. Many of the problems, in other words, oh, here's the reason why I should do that. Wait a minute, it makes sense. When you give yourself a reason that you yourself are comfortable with, you'll see your behavior change. You're doing it yourself. It's not someone telling you, yeah, that's the way you should do it. Homegrown. Many of the problems that we encounter and the difficulties that we face are because we are not able to see reality clearly, whatever levels of reality we're talking about. A biased mental attitude or partiality is a big hindrance and an obstruction to comprehending reality. For example, the reality is that things are dependent and multifarious causes and dependent on multifarious causes and factors. Things are interconnected, interdependent, and interrelated. Think about all these, anything. The car, the house, you. Everything's coming from factors in motion all the time, going somewhere else. That's the situation. Not frozen in time in this imaginary snapshot that we take as reality. Can't be. When we are unable to see this reality, then problems arise because we tend to pick out just one factor, whether it is the experience of happiness or that of problems and difficulties, and try to use it to explain a complex situation. Oh, that's why, yeah. It's vast, all the causes and conditions that bring about moment-by-moment happenings. We tend to highlight just one factor out of the many and focus exclusively on that particular cause or factor. Because of this, we're unable to solve many issues confronting us. You can't apply the right remedy because you didn't assess the situation properly. Well, that's what it is, and what it isn't. No. This is what he's saying. This is complicated, and you have to work with this idea comfortably on your own time. In fact, instead of solving difficulties, we sometimes create additional ones. To deal effectively with a particular problem, it is important to prepare ourselves mentally to understand the reality of a situation and to be able to see facts objectively. One of the things that helps is just, all right, this happens, but wait a minute, what's all behind this event that's happening, and what is it doing to create the future? You have to have that panoramic view mentally. One of the main factors which hinders us from seeing the objectivity of a situation is the partiality of the mind and its biased state. You can see why practicing equanimity is very important. Also, common sense is needed to handle difficult situations. When we confront complex situations and try to solve the problems inherent in them, it is important to have a holistic attitude rather than a narrow mind. We can create a holistic attitude. We don't have to be stuck with a narrow mind. We're in charge of our mind. or become in charge of your mind. Particularly in today's world, such a holistic attitude is important. If you focus only on the interests of your family and forget others, or if you focus only on the interest of your nation and forget the rest of the nations, it will be impossible to achieve long-lasting peace and happiness. If you let afflictive emotions control your mind will become biased and partial. It will be lopsided, one-sided. Then you will not be able to develop a holistic approach. So then he goes on, religious traditions or whatever, man. He gets involved with. Well, we'll hold that for next time. Can't allot too much time to this. What do I do with my pen? I'll put a clip there. Mumble, huh? So now, it's a nice book. It's still around. I don't know how much it costs. This was $14 in the day. The day being about 10 years ago. Many Ways to Nirvana is the title. His Holiness. Very good job by Renuka Singh. Singh means lion. In Hindi? So this is chapter 4 of this text, written in the late 90s. Power of Compassion, a forerunner of the secular ethics approach. You can see he's been working on this for many years, and he's using his experience of the Western world to see how we work, how our minds work, how our religions work, and coming out with his own presentation of the Buddha Dharma, which is a lot of times non-secular. This was translated by Thupten Jinpa, so it's serious business. Chapter 4, page 58. Giving and receiving. I like to receive. I like to give. No, giving and receiving. A practical way of directing love and compassion. This is, I guess, Tonglen, whatever they call it. So, compassion, he starts it off. Compassion is the most wonderful and precious thing. When we talk about compassion, it is encouraging to note that basic human nature is, I believe, compassionate and gentle. He's saying that's our core being. Sometimes I argue with friends who believe that human nature is more negative and aggressive. I argue that if you study the structure of the human body, you will see that it is akin to those species of mammals whose way of life is more gentle and peaceful. Yeah, we're mammals, by the way. We're all mammals here, Darren. Sometimes I half joke that our hands are arranged in such a manner that they are good for hugging rather than hitting. If our hands were mainly meant for hitting, then these beautiful fingers would not be necessary. We wouldn't need them. For example, if the fingers remain extended, boxers can't hit forcefully, so they have to make fists. So I think that means that our basic physical structure creates a compassionate or gentle kind of nature. That's the default. That's the value. If we look at relationships, marriage and conception are very important. As I said earlier, marriage should not be based on blind love or an extreme sort of mad love. It should be based on a knowledge of one another and an understanding that you are suitable to live together. Again, the long view, long term. May not be the moment's emotion, but it has to be factored in. Marriage is not for temporary satisfaction, but for some kind of sense of responsibility. That is the genuine love, which is the basis of marriage. And a lot of religions emphasize marriage in terms of sacrifice. Actually, Christian church, it's a sacrament, marriage. The proper conception of a child takes place in that kind of moral or mental attitude, or should take place in that kind of should, doesn't here. While the child is in the mother's womb, the mother's calmness of mind has a very positive effect on the unborn child, according to some scientists. He always invokes scientists. He probably knows by himself, but he knows we only listen to scientists. They're the gods of the day. Fine. If the mother's mental state is negative, for instance, if she is frustrated or angry, then it is very harmful to the healthy development of the unborn child. One scientist has told me that the first few weeks after birth is the most important period, for during that time the child's brain is enlarging. Should be. During that period, the mother's touch or that of someone who is acting like a mother is crucial. This shows that even though the child may not realize who is who, it somehow physically needs someone else's affection. Without that, it is very damaging for the healthy development of the brain. This is a bomb. It's very important. I don't know what they teach now in prenatal clinics and stuff, but I'm sure something like this goes on. Peaceful music and all that. No alcohol. Definitely no alcohol. But in the old days, I don't think they abided by it. Everybody drank, including pregnant women. You see them in the bars. Oh boy. That's what I can blame for my behavior. After birth, the first act by the mother is to give the child nourishing milk. If the mother lacks affection or kind feelings for the child, then the milk will not flow. If the mother feeds her baby with gentle feelings towards the child in spite of her own illness or pain, as a result, the milk flows freely. This kind of attitude is like a precious jewel, I'll say. Moreover, from the other side, if the child lacks some kind of close feeling towards the mother, it may not suckle. This shows how wonderful the act of affection from both sides is. That is the beginning of our lives. And he mentions this a lot. He's always big in his mother's kindness and all that. Similarly with education, it is my experience that those lessons which we learn from teachers who are not just good, but who also show affection for the student, go deep into our minds. You should go to Catholic school for a while to see what goes on in there. Get over here. Boom. Anyway, lessons from other sorts of teachings may not. Although you may be compelled to study and may fear the teacher, the lessons may not sink in. Much depends on the affection from the teacher. It's a big point he's making. I don't know how far you could take this in a secular school system, but he's trying with the secular ethics approach. And Eugene's son gets classes that sound very much like the secular ethics design. The K through 12 program, like Canada runs on that now. Likewise, when we go to Eugene should be here shortly. We'll ask him. Likewise, when we go to a hospital, irrespective of the doctor's quality, if the doctor shows genuine feeling and deep concern for us, and if he or she smiles, then we feel okay. But if the doctor shows little human affection, then even though he or she may be a very great expert, we may feel unsure and nervous. This is human nature. But that precludes there's a doctor in the hospital. They're very rare. The corporate structure now, I don't know, it's strange, hard to find a doctor in the hospital. They run in and they run out. They're good, they have good technology and all that. The nurses run it, like sergeants run the army. Lastly, we can reflect on our lives. When we are young and again when we are old, we depend heavily on the affection of others. Between these stages, we usually feel that we can do everything without help from others, and that other people's affection is simply not important. But at this stage, I think it is very important to keep deep human affection. When people in a big town or city feel lonely, this does not mean that they lack human companions, but rather that they lack human affection. If people are around you, yet you're lonely. Remember the book, The Lonely Crowd? That was the first mention of alienation. I forgot his name. It was a big sociologist. David Reisman. In the late 50s, early 60s, was a big thing. And it started the idea of alienation, even in urban environments, and causing mental illness, causing all the things that... and he's saying lack of affection. That's just what it's. On the other hand, those people who grow up in an atmosphere of human affection have a much more positive and gentle development of their bodies, their minds, and their behavior. Children who have grown up lacking that atmosphere usually have more negative attitudes. He's very careful. Like, he proved this point because I've noticed children who were brought up in the orphanage in India, that he started, the children's village, with the education program. They're very competent adults. A couple of them come here. Scott's wife, I've met a few of them. Very together. And some of them had no parents, so the parents were killed when they were young. Nikki's young monks, a lot of them are just put there because they have parents that can't afford to keep them, or they don't have parents. So the monasteries of functioning as like family units. And His Holiness insists they get a good education, secular education. They go to school with the tie and everything. And when they're 18, they give them the choice. They want to be a monk or not. If not, okay, at least you have skills. You have computer skills, you have English. You don't have to break rocks for a living in northern India. So he does practice what he preaches. His sister, I think, was in charge of the whole children's program. Also, as I mentioned, the human body appreciates peace of mind. Things that are disturbing to us have a very bad effect on our health. This shows that the whole structure of our health is such that it is suited to an atmosphere of human affection. Therefore, our potential for compassion is there. The only issue is whether or not we realize this and utilize it. So he's saying compassion is important physically for the well-being. The basic aim of my explanation is to show that by nature we are compassionate. That compassion is something very necessary and something to which we can develop. It is important to know the exact meaning of compassion. Okay, different topic. Now, different philosophies and traditions have different interpretations of the meaning of love and compassion. Some of my Christian friends believe that love cannot develop without God's grace. It's a big argument, In other words, to develop love and compassion, you need faith. The Buddhist interpretation is that genuine compassion is based on a clear acceptance or recognition that others, like oneself, want happiness and have the right to overcome suffering. So that's the Buddhist point of view. Of course, we're non-theistic, so we can't come out with the God's grace argument. So they come out with this other one. Everyone has the right to happiness and the right to get rid of suffering. On that basis, one develops some kind of concern about the welfare of others, irrespective of one's attitude towards oneself. That is compassion. Your love and compassion towards your friends is in many cases actually attachment as it stands now. And it's subtle, it's not bad, but he's saying purely there's an attachment element there. This feeling is not based on the realization that all beings have an equal right to be happy and to overcome suffering. Instead, it is based on the idea that something is mine, my friend, or something good for me. That's a big mental move, by the way, when you say I and mine. You have to think what that assumes, what the world view is that thing depends on, and you have to examine that. You do it yourself personally. It comes about after your own thinking. Instead, it's based on the idea that something is mine, my friend, or something is good mine, my friend, or something good for me. This is attachment. Thus, when that person's attitude towards you changes, your feeling of closeness immediately disappears. So it wasn't pure. The person suddenly starts throwing rocks at you or something. Hey, well, he was my... Something deeper has to occur. So first of all, people will change. It's not their fault. Things come at them and they get a little nutty. You have to go down a level deeper than that to see the whole picture. With the other way, you develop some kind of concern irrespective of the other person's attitude to you, simply because that person is a fellow human being and has every right to overcome suffering. That's where you place your reasoning. Whether that person remains neutral to you or even becomes your enemy, your concern should remain because of his or her right. And it saves you a lot of aggravation. That's it. So you could think selfishly, continue to... You want to be more aggravated? Sure, think the other way. This is the main difference. Genuine compassion is much healthier. It is unbiased and is based on reason. By contrast, attachment is narrow-minded and biased. And that's not healthy in the long run for you or anybody else. The behavior that engenders isn't healthy for the world. Actually, he says on page 64, genuine compassion and attachment are contradictory. According to Buddhist practice, to develop genuine compassion, you must first practice the meditation of equalization and equanimity. Detaching oneself from those people who are very close to you. Be careful with that. Just loosely, you don't just, now I hate them because I have to be no. Then you must remove negative feelings towards your enemies. All sentient beings should be looked on as equal. Someone said it's like preparing the ground to make good plants. Get rid of the rocks and everything, cultivate, add nutrition, something like that. All sentient beings should be looked on as equal. On that basis, you can gradually develop genuine compassion for all of them, unbiased compassion. That takes a lot of internal work. It's not hard. It was just a thought that comes up and you say, yeah, that's attachment. Now, this is a better one. Slowly, you get used to that habit. Put the habit power to work. Habits run the show. So, you ever try to quit smoking? Even though logically, you got to work to do it. Logically, it's bad, but same thing. It must be said that genuine compassion is not like pity or feeling that others are somehow lower than yourself. Pity is not compassion. Rather, with genuine compassion, you view others as more important than yourself. That's a tough one. That's very hard. As I pointed out earlier, in order to generate genuine compassion, first of all, one must go through the training of equanimity. He said that's a must. We don't think that way instinctively. We'll just be more warm to it. Take it down to a law. Sand it down so it's a good surface to paint on. We've all done that. While we drank beer? No. This becomes very important because without a sense of equanimity towards all, one's feelings towards others will be biased. So now I will give you a brief example of a Buddhist meditative training on developing equanimity. You should think about, first, a small group of people whom you know, such as your friends and relatives, towards whom you have attachment. Short video you're going to run in your mind. Second, you should think that some people to whom you feel totally indifferent. Think about them. Who knows? The mailman, the guy in the booth selling tickets, or whatever. So what, And third, think about some people who you dislike. Once you have imagined these three people, you should try to let your mind go to its natural state and see how it would normally respond to an encounter with these people. You start doing your own internal play, drama, whatever you want. You will notice that your natural reaction would be that of attachment towards your friends, that of dislike towards the people you consider enemies, and of total indifference, who cares, towards those who you consider neutral. Yeah, well, there's no strong feelings there. That. And you can watch your emotions. Sometimes just thinking about the people you don't like starts the ball rolling. I remember when oh, shut up. You do these things, You got to get out of that habit. I can't. It's very hard. But it helps when you could just loosen it a little. It's very difficult, but necessary. Then you should try to question yourself. You should compare the effects of the two opposing attitudes you have towards your friends and enemies. A little hint here. You bring it home. How do you feel when you view these people? And see why you should have such fluctuating states of mind toward these two different groups of people. You should see what effects such reactions have on your mind and try to see the futility of relating to them in such an extreme manner. How do you feel when you hate someone? Is it pleasant? No. How do you feel when you're over-attached to someone? It's not bad. It feels pretty good, but what's the negative part of that? Especially since it's not making everything smooth, so you can go deeper in your affection. Because eventually your affection is going to it's not going to be, everyone's the same like that. No, everyone's my brother, my sister, everyone. That's what we're looking for, not in a different state, vanilla or whatever. So, we've already discussed the pros and cons of harboring hatred and generating anger towards enemies, and I have also spoken a little about the defects of being extremely attached towards friends and so on. You should reflect upon this and then try to minimize your strong emotions and emotions towards these two opposing groups of people. Sometimes people are over-attached to their country, and you see everything to my country, forgetting that country is a thing that we designated as a group and all that. You can go on. Main thing is to get you moving. It's better for me if I think more with equanimity. And then better for you is better for all of humanity, because if you're a Buddhist, you're on the path to Bodhisattva path that we talk about here, to eventually helping everyone and having the tools to do it. So, then more importantly, you should reflect on the fundamental equality between yourself and all other sentient beings, not just humans. Just as you have the instinctive natural desire to be happy and overcome suffering, so do all sentient beings. Just as you have the right to fulfill this innate aspiration, so do all sentient beings. So on what grounds do you discriminate? So he's just giving a legal argument practically of how illogical and foolish your position is. So we'll do a little bit more of this, then we're dying to get to the death book. If we look at humanity as a whole, we are social animals. Moreover, the structures of the modern economy, education, and so on illustrate that the world has become a smaller place and that we heavily depend on one another. Very much so today. Business can't happen without international cooperation. Ingredients we use in our homes come from everywhere now. I bought a electric cleaner that came from Vietnam. When I was young, Vietnam was a place that you're supposed to hate them, Now it's an industrial partner. Things change. Under such circumstances, the global economy, I think that the only option is to live and work together harmoniously and keep in our minds the interests of the whole of humanity. That is the only outlook and way we must adopt for our survival. And that's true today. You cannot isolate anymore. That's it. So we'll leave it at that. Survival. I don't have any more clip. Oh, yeah, I have a clip. And lastly, we're working with this book, Advice on Death and Dying. And Monday night we went through the beginning of the 4 final dissolutions. There's 8 steps in the dying process. First 4 are observable from an outside point of view. The breath and all that. Then the breath stops and everything. The heart stops. According to the current medical environment, it doesn't read on the instruments. Person's gone. But according to Buddhism, there's still the life force energy in the body, even though the person's not breathing, they're not moving, they're not eating, they're not sleeping, whatever. They're not speaking, they can't see, they can't hear, supposedly. Hearing's the last to go. So in Buddhism, there's 4 more stages. And that's what we talked about the other night. What we didn't talk about, His Holiness presented it. And he talked about channels and props. These things that are presented, the central channel, the 3 main channels, there's 72,000 channels that this lung, or qi, if they call it in Chinese, or energy, courses through this. With the energy, there's always consciousness, like horse and rider. So when you can think of what a horse does, real fast, moving, can't think of where to go. The rider can't run fast, but the rider tells the horse where to go. So you always have wind and energy together in a symbiotic relationship, and that's one of the theories of Tantra. They manipulate winds to create certain types of consciousnesses. Very skillful. You need a teacher. And what do you need to have success in Tantra? Renunciation, of course. You're not doing the right view of emptiness, or at least an appreciation of it. You may not have a direct. And most importantly, bodhicitta. It won't work without bodhicitta. That's very strange. Doesn't look like it. That's why every high yoga tantra initiation starts with the bodhisattva vow. You take the bodhisattva vow. And then we start. So that should be borne in mind. Chungla Rinpoche was right here. His picture anyway. He would always emphasize that. Mind has to be moistened with bodhicitta. So it's a nice idea. It's pervaded with it, And they talk of how the different channels go here and there and all that. And he's saying that the general structure that's presented in the central channel, right and left, is for meditation. The exact place where they are differs from person to person. These things do not show up on any CT scan or anything like X-ray or whatever, MRI. And someone asked Kitty Senchap Rinpoche, well, how do you see? Well, and they said, you see it with the eye of meditation. Well, that leaves, says a lot and says neither what. Okay. In other words, get to work, guys. So he says that in his book, basic book on Tantra, that he, right away in the beginning. So now the winds have certain types of winds. There's many, many winds, but he's giving the 5 basic, first of all. So it's page 141. And this, by the way, all the words here is Holiness Dalai Lama. I have no education in Tantra other than reading things and going to initiations, but I have not been schooled personally in it. Haven't done the meditations, but I'm just presenting. When the structure of the winds in the body, page 141, when the mind pays attention to an object, it does so through the movement of wind or energy. Oh, really? I look at the chair over there, and a wind element is going there and coming back. Oh. The mind rides on wind like a rider on a horse. According to Highest Yoga Tantra, and this is only Highest Yoga Tantra, our psychophysical structure involves 5 primary and 5 secondary winds. Page 141. The life-bearing wind, the bottom 2 lines. You found it? Yeah. Its main seat is in the set of channels at the heart. Its function is to maintain life. The life-bearing wind. It also gives rise to 5 secondary winds, which govern sensory operation and attention. The second major wind is the downward voiding wind. What does that do? Its main seat is in the set of channels in the lower abdomen and moves about in the womb or the seminal vesicle, V-E-S-I-C-L-E, in the urinary bladder, in the thighs, and so forth. What does it do? It stops and starts urination, defecation, and menstruation. Third, the fire-dwelling wind. Its main seat is in the set of channels in the solar plexus, where the inner heat is generated through yoga, the thing that makes these yogis in cold weather dry a wet sheet all over them. The fierce woman, sometimes they call it the inner heat, whatever. There's a lot of words for it. This wind causes digestion, separating refined and unrefined parts, and so forth. The upward moving wind. Its main seat is in the set of channels in the throat. Operating throughout the throat and mouth, this wind causes speech, the tasting of food, swallowing, burping, spitting, and so forth. The pervasive wind. Its main seat is in the joints, causing limbar movement, stretching and contracting the limbs, and opening and closing the mouth and eyelids. This is their presentation, physiology. And remember, all these things have a consciousness riding with them. As you can see, wind drives physical and mental functions. Good health, page 142 at the bottom, good health requires free movement of the winds. Blockages cause problems. Ordinarily, wind does not move in the central channel. This is a big deal. Except during the process of dying. However, through profound yoga techniques, it can move then, allowing the more profound states of mind to manifest. So these sadhanas that they give you for Highest Yoga Tantra and the retreats they tell you to go on, the personal instructions, to get the winds in the central channels, the mind is at a more subtle state, and more things happen. Any alterations when you're in that subtle state directly done changes you very quickly. So you get into the guts of the computer and change a few things. Now the whole thing is different. Something like that. That's their idea. I don't think it's easy. But this is what's presented in symbolic language in the tantras, in the instructions, the sadhanas rather, which means method of accomplishment, sadhana. Funny. Then different sadhanas use different words because why are there different sadhanas? Why are different deities? When they're all the same, they're Buddhists. Because different beings need a different presentation. And a good Lama will say, well, you should do this now. Or within your main deity practice, emphasize this at this point. Okay, no, I told you that. No, emphasize this. You need the one-on-one at the most subtle level, they say. But it's all laid out here and it's very logical and very scientific. So you're causing more subtle states of mind, more profound states of mind to manifest if you can get those winds moving in the central channel. The others wrap around it like knots. During the last four phases of dying, the winds that serve as the foundation of consciousness enter into the right and left channels, and then they dissolve. Okay, so they're not in those channels anymore. In turn, the winds in the right and left channels enter into and dissolve in the central channel. The deflation of the right and left channels loosens the constrictions at the channel knots. There are certain places where the central channel is bound by these winds left and right. These are other channels left and right. They're no longer filled with anything, they deflate. They can no longer bind. So now there's a highway down there, the I-95 of your body. I don't know. They dissolve. The deflation of the right and left channel loosens the constructions at the channel knots. When the right and left channels become deflated, the central channel is freed, thereby allowing movement of the winds inside it. What does this movement do? This movement includes the manifestation of subtle minds, which yogis of highest yoga tantra seek to use in the spiritual path. The winds on which a deeply blissful mind rides are intensely withdrawn from moving to objects, and such a mind is particularly powerful in realizing reality. All that energy that's been going out, drawn in, concentrated. And don't forget, it's blissful state, which implies mental pliancy, which is blissful, which implies, of course, pliancy. You're controlling your subtlest physical parts of your body. So, more than 20 years ago, he drops out of this now with a little vignette, there was a nun over 80 years old who, for her shelter, lived on the veranda of a house in a nearby village. People used to request divinations from her. She asked for an audience, and I met her. She presented me with a book from the Nyingma tradition on practices called breakthrough and leap over, Dzogchen. This is what they're talking about. And we engaged in casual conversation. I'm all right, doctor. She told me that when she was young and still in Tibet, she married, but her husband died, after which she gave up all worldly life, left behind all her property, and went on a pilgrimage. She eventually reached Drikung Monastery, that is, where she met a very old Lama, already around 80, up in a mountain behind Drikung. The Lama had around 12 disciples. She reported that on 2 different occasions she saw monks using their shawls like wings to fly from one hilltop to another. She actually saw this. If that is true, and he said if, it's a hypothetical, this is not just a magical feat, but comes from practicing wind yoga. The monks living in that remote area with an old Lama were clearly renunciate and must have loosened the channel knots. It seems to me that they must have also had the view of the emptiness of inherent existence, as well as altruism. So there's your renunciation, bodhicitta, and right view, right? Endowed with love and compassion. Whether they were scholars or not, they would have had the essence of understanding emptiness. So we'll leave it at that. The essence of understanding. Darren, you got any names? Wonderful book. If you get your hands on it, it'll really repay you. No names. So Marguerite? Someone is calling in a name. Wait a minute. No, it's just corporate advertising. It's creeping into our life everywhere. It's loosening the central channel knots and creeping in there. If they could, they would. So it's a recollection of Noble Three Jewels for anyone you want, victims of war, etc. There's plenty around. I prostrate to the omniscient one. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arahat, Samyak Sang Buddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those along with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strengths cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He's not stained by the realm of desire. He's not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavat, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy, it is trustworthy, and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Jnana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. Notice they mention the Dharma as the protector, not the Buddha. In other words, you're your own protector. You understand the Dharma, and that protects you. Of course, the Buddha spoke the Dharma, so without it, there's no Dharma. But that's 8 verses for training the mind. With the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings, who surpass even a wish-granting jewel, I will learn to hold them supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions, I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings and those oppressed by strong misdeeds and sufferings, as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others out of jealousy treat me badly, with abuse, slander, and so on, I will learn to take all loss and offer the victory to them. When the one whom I had benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly, I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my mothers. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. And a prayer for the swift return of Rato Chungla Rinpoche, written by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop. Sole refuge manifests in the form of the one wearing saffron robes. Guru Lozang Tubuang, Dorje Chang, please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers, Lord of speech of the Victor Losang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening, yet you have withdrawn the activity of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you till cyclic existences end, to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by bodhicitta drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings and wish-fulfilling jewel, return as the glory of Losang Tempe, magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Sri Mata Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors. May you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. So this concludes tonight's presentation. Our next event will be Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock here in the parsonage in South Orange, the White Terrace Sedona. We do that every other Saturday. And the following week, Monday night and Wednesday night. And I must emphasize Monday night, weather permitting, because we're supposed to have a big snowstorm. I don't know if we can get to New York City, but just check the website. So that's the program for the next week. So thank you, I can't speak anymore. Thank you for your kind, patient listening. Big love to all of you. Stay warm. Thank you. Now it's time for Eugene.